Nadretani tom tom, nadretani tom 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 tom, 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 nadretani tom tom. Nadretani tom 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 tom, nadretani tom tom, 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 retani tom tenanetterati.
Hello, our users. My name is John Callouts. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology, 12-year user of R for normal, boring statistical and analytical operations. But for the last, 9 or 10, I think I usually say 9 or 10 years, the majority of that time, majority of those 12 years, I don't just do analyses with R. No. I execute full projects from within the same environment that I author my R script. And so I hang out here every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern, and we hang out for about an hour, and I'm just here to promote this way of structuring your work such that you don't move from your analytical scripting environment to a word processor, or you don't move to a presentation platform, or you don't move to a web authoring platform. No. You do it all from within the same environment that you script your R analysis. And so there's a couple of different terms for this. It's consistent with this concept of reproducible research. So I refer to it as reproducible research workflows, or one way to execute reproducible research workflows. It's also consistent with this concept of literate programming that emerged from computer science, but gave us such things as LaTeX and maybe markdown. I'm kind of still exploring the history of that myself as I'm trying to reconstruct it as a psychologist who came upon this way of structuring your work kind of late in my career, but I am so into it that we're here every Tuesday, and we're going to hang out for about an hour and be available if there's anyone else out there who's interested in doing this. please consider us to be a resource. You can ask questions. That's why we do it live. You can drop a note in the comments if you're interested in asking a question while we're live. If you want to do that after we're live as well, that's fine. I should get notification about that. But I'm just here. If there's someone who's interested in this and wants a little help or wants a little guidance, maybe wants a litlittle support or encouragement. So I'm going to keep hanging out every Tuesday for roughly an hour. In the absence of somebody popping by and saying, hey, Callouts, you're talking too much. Shut up and tell me how to do this. What we've been doing is we've been taking a look at just focused features of the capabilities that we're talking about. So not just writing a paper, but maybe doing things on the edges, maybe adding little flourishes. How do I access a font? Or what if I want to change the header? Or what if I like different colors and want to introduce those? So tonight we're gonna keep doing that. I think we will keep. I think we're going to keep doing that into perpetuity because there's so many different things that we can cover each week if we're just covering one thing at a time. But tonight, what we're going to cover is a topic that we've covered before, but there's some new developments that have happened, so we're going to revisit it. And those are callouts. And callouts are a type of content that Quarto, the software that we've kind of been relying on to help us make these products. Callouts are something that I think that they were introduced with Quarto to me. So they're not new to the world of communication. These callouts have been used on websites and in other formats for a long, long time. But in terms of structuring your products from within your scripting environment, the first I encountered these callouts was when I started to use Quarto. Quarto is the software that gives us the slides that you're looking at. The slides that you're looking at are available in the comments. Please use them. I also put a link to the walkthrough that I've been putting in every week. The walkthrough, if you aren't sure if this is something you might want to do, the walkthrough is one way for you to get some feedback in terms of some of the capabilities and see how it might fit within whatever it is that you're doing in your daily work. Okay, so before we get to the custom callouts, we will recap what actually happened last week. Because we always explore these features in an open-ended, unscripted manner, we always, at the beginning of each session, we do a recap of what happened last week. But we don't just do a recap, we do a segue into a recap, and we have a special guest that helps us with that every week. So Mr. Bullwinkle J. Moose, what happened last week?
Well, things looked bad for our hero last time, didn't they?
You said it.
Rocky has been blindfolded and tied up in a hole under the Farmers and Swineherds National Bank right next to a charge of dynamite with a burning fuse.
You said it.
And the fiend behind all this is Boris Badenoff, alias Babyface Braunschweiger, the Minnesota Monster.
You said it. Come on, fellas. Last one out of the hole is a dead squirrel.
Quickly, the gang scrambled to safety, leaving Rocky alone with the dynamite.
Gee, if I can just get to the fuse, maybe I can put it out.
And the fearless squirrel inched his way toward the sound of the sizzling fuse. First, he tried sitting on it.
Ow! That'll never do.
He even tried to pull the fuse out of the dynamite, only to find that it was a lot longer than he thought.
Gee, I guess I'm really a goner this time. Help! Help!
But the wily Babyface Badenoff had roped off the area above.
It's just a cartoon, but Boris can be pretty mean sometimes. And funny. It's a cartoon, so he should be funny. But last one out of the hole is a dead squirrel. Like, that was pretty brutal, but also pretty funny. I see myself here. I can actually, I'm a big cartoon guy, but I actually got this T-shirt, and I wanted to wear it for my brother because I think my brother would appreciate it. But I just got it. This is the first. You're seeing this T-shirt debuted just for you. It's the first, within the first 2 hours of me wearing it here. So I still have kind of creases and fold marks on it. I didn't wash it. I just put it straight on out of the package. But it's Slowpoke Rodriguez, who's Speedy Gonzalez's cousin. And actually, I know this isn't relevant for R, but I stopped at the grocery store before coming here. I was out kind of doing stuff, but I stopped at the grocery store, and the checkout lady looked at my shirt, and she goes, "That's a funny-looking Speedy Gonzalez." And I had to correct her. I say, "No, That's his cousin, Slowpoke Rodriguez. And there was a very impatient guy after me, so even though that conversation probably could have extended even further, I just kind of let it hang right there, and I walked away. So hopefully I didn't leave that cashier too stunned and wondering what's going on in the world. This is another tangent, but that used to be kind of more of a thing before we had AI and Google. You just drop some random factoid. There were limited ways in which you could check that. You could go to an encyclopedia, but there's no encyclopedia of Slowpoke Rodriguez and Speedy Gonzalez's lineage. So anyway, good thing for that cashier that she actually has Google and AI, because now she can find out if I was telling the truth or not, or if I just have an anemic Speedy on my chest. I'm sorry, a bit of a distraction there. So last week what we did was we took a look, and we'll get to it tonight, but I've been working on something else so feverishly that even though I made these, this is kind of looking new to me because I haven't seen this for a while. But last week we did take a look at appending the code bits of your document at the very end of the rendered document. And so putting code in appendices. And so there were two different strategies here that we checked out. There's probably more than just two strategies to doing this, but there's a traditional way and then there's this newer way. When I say traditional, I mean via Knitter, the engine that traditionally has powered these reports that have a mixture of narration or narrative components and analytical components. So via Knitter and the old R Markdown ecosystem, we kind of have one way of doing this. And via Quarto, the newer software that isn't a package, it's an independent piece of software that resides on your machine. Via Quarto, there's a different way. And the different way through Quarto is through engaging with something called an extension. And we're going to deal with extensions again tonight. But if you are interested in checking out a couple of different, or if you're interested in checking out the Quarto, one of the Quarto ways to take the code that you have usually interspersed throughout your report. So here I have a t-test, and maybe later I have a histogram or some other visual, and then maybe later on I have a more complex set of analyses. If you want to throw those into an appendix, you can use this code appendix extension, and you just copy the clipboard here on step 1 and paste that into your terminal within your RStudio session. I still am under the assumption that most of you are using RStudio. If you're using a different one, let me know. I would like to know that. It would help me. It would help me kind of tailor what we're doing for not just RStudio users, because it doesn't. The ID is immaterial. It doesn't matter for what we're doing. But the steps that we talk about might look a little different, and that's why it's not consequentially consequential, but there's minor differences that someone might have to be aware of if they're operating with a different IDE. Excuse me. So you take this bit of code here, you copy it, and you paste it into your RStudio terminal. And then when you engage with your report, you're just going to use this YAML command here, and it's a first level YAML command. So by first level, I mean tight up against the left-hand margin of your scripting environment. So within the YAML, the front matter, what's also called metadata. So maybe I shouldn't have stopped at the grocery store. Not only did I stop at the grocery store, but I also cooked and ate really quickly right before, whatever that blue bunny guy is up there in the upper right-hand corner, that might be happening to me. So hopefully it doesn't happen for at least an hour here so we can get through this. But within your YAML, the QMD is the extension that identifies this file type. And the 3 dashes at the top and the 3 dashes at the bottom are signifying the beginning of your YAML and the end of your YAML. And the reason that's important is the language is a little different than how you are going to script the rest of your plain text file. But if you just say filters code appendix, that gives you access to the capability. And then it will automatically, for every code chunk that you have echo is true on in terms of a code chunk option, it'll take that echoing and it'll append it within an appendix. It'll put it actually at the end of your document. There's another extension that we didn't check out, but I did put it on here. It's called regurgitate, and regurgitate is actually authored by someone that also authored a customized callout extension, and that's how I came across the idea to do a customized callout. Was as I was putting together these slides, I saw that we kind of missed an option, which is this regurgitate extension. But as I was looking at regurgitate, I saw that the author of that extension also had a custom callout extension, and so we're not going to look at regurgitate at least tonight, but we are going to take a look at one of his other contributions, and so that'll be fun. Okay, so there's Quarto, there's Code Appendix, the extension, there's Regurgitate, the extension, and then within the R Markdown kind of tradition, there's a different way to append all of your code to the very end, and that is to use this ref label equals statement within your code chunk specification. And so that ref.label equals knitter ; all labels open and close parentheses. Knitter is the package that this function all labels is located within, and knitter comes bundled with it should come bundled with R, so that should be a base distribution. That's not something you should ever need to go out and actually look for and install. It should just be there. Quarto is different. If you want to use Quarto, you have to look for it and install it. Like I said, it's an independent piece of software. Now, the neat thing about this R Markdown process is it works in all different types of documents. So you don't need to be crafting your document from within an R Markdown environment or package. You can actually craft your document within Quarto and just use this code chunk that's kind of stolen from the old R Markdown tradition, and it works just fine. Now, one of the things I kind of like about the old way of doing things, or using this ref.label, is it doesn't auto-generate for you an appendix label, and that to me is actually useful. So I kind of like being in control of what the headings are going to look like, and so using the old R Markdown system and process, you need to actually articulate explicitly what you want the heading to look like. Okay, now the difference here is this code chunk operates completely independently from all of your other previous code chunks. So with the Quarto approach using code appendix, if you want the code to appear in appendix, you have to set echo equals true on all of the chunks that you want to be echoed. You don't want to do that using this process. So using this process, if you set individual code chunks to true, then they're going to be echoed twice. They're going to be echoed where they're called out in the document, and then they're also going to be appended at the very end. Now, there's ways around this, but it's just if you don't do anything else, that's going to happen. So just be aware of that. So those are code appendices, very useful, especially for student and professor applications. In my mind, I'm kind of biased. That's the world I come from. That's the world I'm most familiar with. But I really see that as being kind of a neat option for students who give professors who give students assignments, and those assignments have scripting components to them. It doesn't just need to be R script. You can do Python, you can do Julia, you can do whatever language it is that you're interested in. All of these IDEs now are moving toward accommodating multiple languages. So the process that we're talking about applies regardless of what language you are trying to focus on as an instructor or as someone who's communicating and trying to let other people see kind of what you've done with your code sharing. It's a different way to code share. Okay, so today what we're going to do should be a lot of fun. So today we are going to check out, we were just going to check out one package, or one extension, I'm sorry. But I have some breaking news, and we'll get to that breaking news in just a second. So before we get to the breaking news, the extension that I thought we would focus on is there's a hyperlink on the title of this slide, and it goes to the person who also created Regurgitate that we did not yet check out. But this extension actually takes the default Quarto callouts. There's 5 of them, and we'll take a look at those first before we go to this. But it allows some customizability. So it allows the user to have a little more control over what those callouts look like. Now, the main contribution here that I saw, and I didn't do a deep dive in this, but the main contribution that I saw is the replacement of the default icons within the Quarto callouts to icons that you're interested in. Now, icons that you're interested in are going to be somewhat limited to kind of Unicode icons, or icons that are located within repositories of these sorts of things. Font Awesome is one such repository, and there's a couple different ways to pull, a couple different places to pull these from. But if you can copy and paste the image, then it should work within this custom callout. Now, there's going to be limitations on all these extensions. So one of the limitations here on this extension is that this is going to be applicable only currently to HTML and Reveal.js file types. So the other 2 big ones that we talk about weekly are Typist, and they're both different ways to produce a PDF. We can script in Typist, or we can script using LaTeX. And so the LaTeX process is more generally just referred to as focusing on or creating a PDF. So we can do a Typist, we can do a PDF, we can do it, which is kind of the same thing. So they produce the same thing. We can go with Typist, we can go PDF, we can go HTML, we can go Reveal.js. This callout, the custom callout extension created by the Codeless professor, this extension is going to be limited to the HTML and the Reveal.js file types. Now, the thing it does is these callouts look fantastic. I think they look exactly like the Quarto callouts. And so let's just, instead of rendering them, let's take a quick look at them. Quarto callouts. And there's 5 that come built in, and this is what the 5 look like. There's a note, there's a warning, there's an important, there's a tip, and there's a caution. Now, what am I missing? Note, warning, important, tip, and caution. So those are the 5 kind of default ones. What the Codeless professor has done is he's made it possible to alter the color of these callouts in terms of what I'm calling the banner, the top bit, and also change the symbol. And this symbol is kind of something that I've talked about over the weeks also, in terms of might have an interest in changing that or tweaking that. So if we look at this slide, I've actually installed the extension, the Codeless professor's extension, on my machine, and I have 3 different callouts here that are customized using his extensions. And you can see that images still render within them, GIFs still render within them. I can do things like have bulleted lists within them. And the main contribution here is you see these icons have changed. So it's really slick, it's really neat, and we're going to play with it and see how to use it. We also, there's a link at the bottom of this slide. It says deeper customization also possible, more flexible but much less convenient. So if you click that link, I republished an old set of slides that we had done. When did we do it? August 20th of 2024. So almost 2 years ago, we did this, and we created this call out right here. But the way in which we created that call out was through CSS. So this is only going to apply again to HTML or Reveal.js slides. You can copy this code chunk here on the left if you're interested, and then copy the scripting on the right, and it will reproduce for you this particular callout. Now, it's unwieldy primarily because all of this nested fencing. So the way that I was following another tutorial, and there's a link to that. I don't want to link to link, but if you're interested, there's a link to the tutorial that I was following here within our customized callout. And the way in which at the time, 2 years ago, this needed to be structured without being a CSS wizard, which I'm certainly not, was to kind of take it one step at a time. So have a little CSS that handles the banner, have a little CSS that handles the image, have a little CSS that handles different parts. And so that results in this just kind of mess of nested fenced divs. And so that's not something that I was really interested in spending any time on. But what I did actually this weekend was I took that capability, I took that basically that structure that we created, and I took it to AI basically, and I said, hey AI, I'm interested in doing this, but I don't like the nested divs that we have to specify in order to get the capability that I would actually like to get. And so just this afternoon, I think we finally got to the point where we have an extension, a new extension, and I'd be interested in people trying this. We're going to try it. We'll try it tonight. But so I also created an extension with the help of AI that's a little bit different. So this extension is more consistent, not with icons, but with images. So with this, with the extension that we'll take a look at, that's my extension, I guess you can call it, it's going to produce callouts that look more like this, where you can swap out whatever image it is that you're interested in displaying. Okay, so before we get to that, let's check out the Codeless Professor's custom callouts, because I think he's done a lot more in this area. He's someone that I'm familiar with. I don't know the person, but I'm familiar with his work. And I would place more reliability on stuff that he does, because the thing that I just created, one, I've tested it myself, and it seems to be okay here locally. But I'm not sure where it's going to break. I'm not sure when it's going to break. I know some things that I'm not completely happy with it, but I would place more trust in the Codeless Professor here in terms of what he's come up with. Okay, and so here he mentions using a callout. He used a callout. This extension supports Quarto HTML documents and Reveal.js presentations, and he's hoping to extend that to other file formats. Having just gone through this and trying to get a typist and PDF callout, I understand, and we took liberties. So this is not what I have is not a direct representation. It's not building on the Quarto system. It has the appearance of the Quarto callouts. I'm guessing, I haven't looked at his code, but I'm guessing his is more kind of consistent with the internal scripting that the Quarto team probably uses. Okay, so let's see if we can access it. So I'm going to go into our studio, and I'm going to do this from a project directory. I just cleaned up my computer because I had so many, across these weeks, I had so many just different folders called temp or try or just kind of random nonsensical kind of names. So let's do another one. I just got rid of a temp. Let's try another temp. I think I got rid of a temp. Oh, I must not have got rid of that. We will do, let's give it a real name. We'll call it Callout. And the location is kind of, that's not a place I like to put stuff, but that's okay. And so the reason we're going to a project directory is it's just going to be easier to access extensions if we're working within a project folder. And we're not going to need to specify to our where we are, where stuff is. Now we are going to need to engage with the terminal in order to access the capability. So at the terminal, I'm going to paste in the command to access the extension. Yes, we trust this author. Yes, we'd like to continue. And no. So with my own, I actually did finally follow the view documentation. And the view documentation just takes you to, at least for me, it took me to the GitHub README file. So I don't think we're missing a lot there in terms of what we've done on these weekly sessions in terms of kind of ignoring the do you want to read the documentation? Okay, much better. So we installed the extension. If we look in the project folder, there's now an underscore extensions folder. It has the name of the author on there, and then the capabilities of the extension itself. In terms of using it, so let's look and see what kind of fields we can affect through this command. So title makes sense. The icon, this is the big one. So this is the icon symbol option is the big one. This is the one that we really, to me, it's the reason for doing this is having the capability to have full control over what's displayed in your callout. And so in terms of what you can use, any string, so that's interesting. We'll try that. So any string should be, just like a letter or a number. We should be able to put that in. And then Unicode is kind of what I was thinking. Unicode has emojis. It has different language characters. And then Font Awesome is something that is incorporated in a lot of these extensions and capabilities, especially when you get to things like websites and books. You're going to run across more of these Font Awesome icons. Now I'm guessing we can probably try other ones as well. Anything we can copy and we'll paste into our plain text file should actually work, I would imagine. The thing about Font Awesome, I haven't used it for a while, but not everything's free on there. So they do have a accessible set of icons, and then they have kind of a pay tier as well. So it is what it is. It's the world we live in. But we should have a lot of flexibility here in terms of the types of things we want to display. Color is great. In terms of specification of color, I love hex codes. That's just a quick and easy way to do things. And then he did do two things that are consistent with the native Quarto callouts in terms of existing customizability. So the native custom callouts, you can have the appearance be three different types. They have a default, a simple, and a minimal. And then they also have the collapsible option, and the collapsible is just folding. So 2 weeks ago we did we looked at accordion capabilities, and collapsible is just going to be basically an accordion. And the way that it's recommended we use these is through YAML specifications. So if we define them in the YAML, then we can call them out using these fenced divs. And this is actually the same structure that I followed in mine. So this will be it'll be an easy segue back and forth between what we see here and what I show you next. So let's take a look. Let's create a new document. So I'm going to do a new Quarto document. And we'll do a HTML document. And I'm going to replace, what did I just copy? I copied this information right here. So I'm going to paste that underneath the format specification in my YAML. And that should be the level of, this should be the proper leveling. Now, one thing that didn't come through is there's usually a space here, but or some indentations, but he does not have those. So we'll just try to run. I've mentioned this before across these weeks that over the course of my 9 or 10 years working with these sorts of files, the YAMLs, the front matter, have become a lot more forgiving.
What?
Forgiving. They've become a lot more forgiving to things like indentation, mistakes, and errors. They were just, when I first started doing this, they were notoriously tricky. Okay. And then let's call out. Let's try some of his callouts here. So I kind of violated our weekly principle, which is I started to mess with the QMD before rendering it first to test it. But I'm going to get rid of since we didn't test it, I'm just going to get rid of boilerplate so we can just see the capabilities right away. And as I render it, it's going to ask me to give it a name, and we'll call it coatless. Wonder how he came up with that name, the coatless professor. Okay, so that's interesting. So one of them didn't come through. So one of them did not come through, which is test. Oh, we didn't specify test in here. So in the custom callouts, there's two that are specified. There's a thumbs up and there's a to do. Let's make a test. So maybe that was a mistake on his part. But we'll give it a title, call it, this is only a test. Now he did say that the icon symbol should be a string. So we should just be able to say 1941. The reason I say 1941, and I'll talk while I script here if I can. Let's give it a color. We'll give it that badass color that we like. It's kind of a chartreuse-ish kind of color. Okay, so now test should actually come through. The reason I mentioned 1941 is because apparently people don't like the new Spielberg movie. And the disclosures or something like that. Something about aliens. He's always going on about aliens. Maybe he knows something that we don't know. But apparently it's a bad movie. I wouldn't know. I'm not a movie guy. Unless it's a cartoon, and then I'll watch it. But I heard some people compare it. They were talking about bad Spielberg movies, and somebody said the last bad one was maybe 1941. 1941 is one of my favorite movies of all time. Maybe it was considered a bomb by him, but I love that movie. I love that movie. Okay. So let's see if the icon symbol does register as a string. I did notice that this to do symbol is coming in kind of italicized, which is, I don't know if that's intentional or not. Maybe it's something that we did. But let's see if we get our third. Yeah, we got our third. It came in kind of smooshed. So I'm guessing that the coatless professor had some of the same kind of design quirks that I ran into as well. And so one of them is kind of where do you place the icon versus where do you place the title, and he obviously chose to kind of make it a small space. So 1941 is going to look a little funny. If we go to 41, it should render better. There we go. Now this is cool. If we inserted a hard break here, let's see if we can do another line. So I'm curious to know if we can, and now this should be the 1941 or the 41 middle one. I'm curious to know if we can expand that banner a little bit by making the title a little, we're trying to force it onto 2 lines here. And again, this isn't a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just kind of curious about some of the capabilities of this because I haven't played with them. Okay, cool. I really love the look of these. These look so similar to a regular Quarto callout. Let's put in a regular Quarto callout. And I generally use these curly brackets as kind of a convention. You don't need them, but it's kind of the way that I normally structure things, so I like that. Okay, so there's what one normally looks like, and you can see his look so similar to that, so similar. So I'm guessing he's kind of hijacking. I mean that in a positive sense, not a negative sense. But I'm guessing he's kind of using their under the hood process in order to generate what we see in this rendered document here. Let's put an image in just to see if images work. kind of curious. You know, there's probably limited number of kind of use cases of images in there, but shopping, I didn't want to do shopping. I want to do image. Why is there no image on here? I like that picture of Belushi, but there we go. This is a fun picture. So this is when they're on a Ferris wheel. By the way, if you don't know the plot of 1941, I won't spoil it for you. It's only about 40 years old, so spoil it for you. There it goes. Okay. So in the Codeless Professor's callouts, you can do images, which means that markdown is supported, which means we should also be able to do things like bullets. 1, 2, 3. We'll say tree in memory of my Polish grandfather. And then we'll try numbers as well. 1, 2 is B, and C is C. I'm confusing myself. So well, these bullets should work. So if the markdown recognized an image above, then it should recognize bullets below. So that's great. That's awesome. If you wanted to get a different font awesome icon, we can go back to font awesome. Now, I used to use Font Awesome quite a bit before I found the Iconify extension, and now I pretty exclusively use the Iconify extension, so I don't go into Font Awesome much anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure how to find... Oh, looks like I looked for the R project at some point, so let's see if we can find that. I do not, so I don't see the R project. Let's just look for a note, maybe like a musical note. Oh, let's look for music. And you can see some of these that are coming through, you can see they're kind of on the pro tier. So these are the ones with the pro tag are ones that we're not going to have access to. You can see some of them are a little more elaborate. This one should be free. Typically you have ways of accessing these different variants as well. But we'll just try FA Music and see what comes through. And we should get those notes on this thumbs up call out. There we go. Can't get much easier than that. So that's pretty cool. That's neat. Okay, Codeless Professor, good job. That's very cool. It's impressive how similar to the native Quarto callouts those actually look. We can also check out the one that I just created. And the one that I just created is a little more focused on getting whatever image you want in there instead of an icon. So I'm trying to get images in this kind of upper left hand portion of the callout that has the information icon or the pencil and notepad icon or the notes icon. So what I have again is more focused on an image. So I'm going to go to my repo, and my repo is here. And again, it just went up today. So if you look at the commits, the last commit was 5 hours ago. So this thing was not ready. I wasn't thinking we were going to get to it tonight because I didn't think I would get done with it. But I think I got it enough. I think I have it done enough where we can check it out. So I'm going to copy the installation link here, just like we did with the Codeless Professor. I'm going to go into my terminal and I'm going to paste. We'll see if it works. Do we trust the authors? Now, I happen to know this author fairly intimately. I don't know if that's the right word. It probably isn't the right word. I know this person fairly well. I've known this person for a long time. I'm not going to extend that joke too much.
What?
All right, so we'll just say we trust them. Yes, we would like to continue. No, we don't want to see the document. Oh, again, if I show you that, it does just pull up the README file on the GitHub repo, and I'm guessing it does that for everybody. Okay, so now if I look in my extensions file, I have the Codeless Professor. I also have mine, and mine's called Quarto, or it's called Callout PNG. So let's try a new Quarto document, and we'll do I don't think we need to do the rendering right now because we just tried the Codeless Professors and we saw that rendering worked fine. I'm going to get rid of what's in there, and in my repo I do have a use clipboard here as well, and so this is sufficient for the entire capability. So if we go in here and select all and paste, we should see if the callout's actually working. So cross your fingers, slowpoke your fingers crossed. He's making pretty big muscles there, but I can't tell if his fingers are crossed or not. Hopefully they are. If that's codeless, we'll call this cooless. We got codeless and cooless competing against each other. And so in this, hey, look at that. So mine, the banner is, the default banner color is deeper, so it's more saturated, but we can change that. So the tweaking that we can do on this one is we can change the color, and the way that it's crafted right now, and again, I'm open to suggestions for changing it or parameterizing it. So I will say that putting this together, I didn't want to have a ton of options on it. I wanted to make most of the functionality be something that the user didn't have to control. It just kind of worked. So that left hand banner or border that you're actually seeing here, that's a little bit darker. It's actually 7% darker. There's a mathematical function in there to define that. The title operates the same as the Codeless Professor. The image operates the same as the Codeless Professor's icon. What was it? It was an icon symbol. So he has icon symbol. I actually have just image. Where are we here? I just have image, and then I only have I kind of have two parameters that the user can choose that really alters the look of primarily the banner. And so one is how big you want your image. So the height of that you can change. It's going to come in as a default quite big, so it's easy to see, and then you can scale it down if you want from there. And then the banner will scale to that as well. And then the header VPad is just up and down how much space is there between the image and the top of the banner versus the bottom of the banner. Okay, so let's play with those a little bit. I think I do have some more examples here. So I'm going to copy those. We'll use the clipboard. I created it and I don't remember. It literally was just 5 hours ago. So, okay, so let's see what happens. There we go. Okay, so I'm calling out different colors, and I'm using a different image as well. You can see with the way to build this is the capability is just indicated by the callout-png. And then if you want to control kind of what things look like, you can give it a title. If I get rid of the title, it'll just give you the default title, which is Pinktacular Callout. So that'll change to Pinktacular Callout, even though it's not pink. Again, color, you can specify any color you want in a hex code. And then the image, you can put any image in there that you want as well. The header VPad, let me show you what that actually does. So the header VPad, if you look at the gray Snoopy right now, you can see that there's quite a bit of space between the top of his head and the top of the banner and his feet and the bottom of the banner. If we bump that down to 0, now 0 is the default, but if we bump that down to 0, you're going to see that space minimize between the top and the bottom. So let's go back to 1, and you can see that markdown is supported in these as well. So we can do things like bullets. We can add. Let's make a new one. So you can add an image in there if you want. So we'll do callout PNG, and for title, let's just leave the title blank. So I can do just nothing for the title. I am going to have to specify that it is blank to override the default. The default right now is not blank. The default is to give it a title, Pinktacular Callout. So if you want nothing there, you're going to have to explicitly mention that. We will give it a color. We'll do badass, I guess, so we don't have to look one up. And the image, let's look for a nice image. And then we'll put another image in it as well. So let's look for, let's see if we can find any suggestions out there. If there aren't any suggestions, I'm going to look for maybe a Hanna-Barbera character. Yackle Doodle? There's a little derp. There he is. What is it? Yacky Doodle. Yacky Doodle. Let's look for Yacky Doodle. We're going to want, so the thing about one of the reasons that I did this is I wanted to, and the reason it has the 3 letters PNG in the title is I did want to focus kind of on images that have transparency in the background, and PNGs are more likely to have transparency in the background. It doesn't need to be a PNG. It can be different. It can be different things as well. But we'll see if that actually works. It's a Yacky Doodle with hopefully a transparent background. And then as the image, we can try markdown here and see if the image works. Whoa, I don't know that's a very funky looking. Let's look for a different image. And I'm just right clicking the address to get that. We're going to see when we get to typist, and PDF renderings of this, we're actually going to see that the grabbing an image from the internet like this is not going to be an option. We're going to have to save a local image, but that's okay. So it looks like it didn't like the Yacky Doodle, but there I can put it in. It doesn't have a transparent background, so that's why it's actually looking a little funny like that. Let's see if we can find one that has a transparent background. This might be. It's really hard to tell just by images like this. You almost need to spend a little more time finding something that really is a JPEG. So this is not going to be a transparent background. It's very rare to find a JPEG file format that does have a transparent background. I didn't like that I had title with nothing in there, so there's the default. And it really doesn't like this Top Cat cartoon. Let's find a different image. Let's find a cartoon, transparent background. SpongeBob looks like he'll probably be a PNG that we can use. Let's first put it down here and see if it does come in as a PNG. That looks good. So the transparent background should be something that looks quite good in the banner of our callout itself. So title, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do image, not title. So there we go. So there we have, and again, cartoons are silly, right? This one we'd want to add some vertical space, so I can do the header v pad equals, we'll just try 1. Different units should work here as well. I kind of like, if you watched over the course of these several weeks, you'll notice, or You maybe have noticed that I kind of like specifying units in that EM. It's a relative. It's a relative. Okay, so that's interesting. So oh, because I had title up here. I was going to say the ordering. I didn't know that the ordering matters, but it's the fact that I had two of them specified, two of those attributes specified. Okay, so that this is another option, and again, you probably wouldn't normally do cartoons. I don't know, maybe you would, but I'm guessing that the way that most people would use this would be something like a corporate icon. So if we look for Apple Corporation logo, these oftentimes do have transparent backgrounds just in terms of what we see on what we have access to online. And again, the non-transparent backgrounds are going to work just fine, but transparent backgrounds tend to look a little better. That one looks like it might be. So I'm going to replace SpongeBob here with the Apple icon, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, there we go. Now the placement of my icons, just like the placement of the Codeless Professor's icons, are going to be kind of hardwired in there. So that's not a user parameter. This one you're seeing, it looks like it's coming in further to the right, and that's no doubt because the image itself is just wide. So if I save this, and then let's open it, we should be able to change that. So I'm going to open that just in a whatever my default editor is. Let's see if I can crop it. I don't want to resize, I want to crop. So let's see if there's a crop. Should be this. So this isn't something that I tend to use. That should be a little better, but we should still be able to crop it. I don't even know what we're in. What the heck is this? Oh, edit. Edit should work. There we go. So if I kind of pull this in, and then if it lets us save it, save options, save. Okay. So now if I take that to my downloads folder, I'm going to copy that, and let's put it in, if we can find the directory that we're actually using, which I think it was on the desktop, and we called it Callout. So there we go. So I'm just going to paste it straight in, not use any sort of folders or anything. I'm just going to have it available there in my file. So now if I, instead of grabbing it from, let's make another one. So I'm going to take SpongeBob out so it's not so huge, and we'll make another call out with the same specifications, but instead of grabbing that image from the internet, we're going to call up the local image, which is, where is it? Apple logo PNG. So should be able to find that. There we go. And then, so again, there you see that the rendering of it is further located to the left, and then the title is mapped to that image as well. Okay. So let's check out the other formats. We're already at an hour here, so we'll check out the other formats, and I'll show you what those look like using this other option, which is callouts not with an icon, but callouts with a PNG or whatever image type you want. You can also put GIFs in there. GIFs work as well. So if you wanted to have motion in here, you could have a silly motion in there. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna scrub one of these because with the typist and the PDF renderings, I've already mentioned this, but we're not going to be able to grab an image from the internet. Now I have Snoopy loaded in this package so that he's coming in two different ways in the script that we just had. He's coming in from the internet, and he's also coming in directly from a file that's on my extension. And so for us to test out typist and PDF, I'm going to just make sure that these three images, Apple, which we just saved locally, Snoopy, and the Pink Panther, they're all located somewhere in your folders, so you can play with, so they'll work within all these formats. Now the other thing I should say before we get to it is I didn't have a font specification as a user parameter. You should be able to control that with main font. And so if I look at my main fonts, whatever on your machine, you should have access to. So we'll look for one that's kind of prominent here. Broadway looks fairly prominent. Cooper. Forte. I didn't know I had all these actually. Let's do... Let's try... Where was that? Where was the weird looking one? Forte. Let's try Forte. Forte should work. So we should be able to say main... I was going to say Times New Roman, but we'll try Forte. And so the callouts should render consistent with whatever the main font is that you're actually using in your document. So I'm gonna hide that for just a second so we can see what these other document formats look like. Now with Reveal.js, unless I put in different slides, everything's going to stack, and so they'll be hidden. So I'm going to have to put in some headings there so we can have the slides on different, or the images each on a different slide. So it looks pretty similar. These all are coming in huge, and you can tweak that by other nested divs. If you want to actually make it smaller, you can do that. You can control the banner. That's the easiest way to do this. Or you can nest these within further markdown specifications, and that'll change the size. So that's what Reveal.js looks like. The typist rendering. See what that looks like. Cross your fingers. These are the ones where we really need to cross our fingers and make sure it works. Hey, look at that. So you can start to see where these are starting to look a little different than the Quarto callouts. Now this one looks very different because there's nothing in it. So let's put something in it. I'll just say content here, and then we'll get a body. The default is going to, you're not going to get this text box unless there's something to be displayed. But markdown is enabled here as well, so we can put an image in there if we want. Let's put in Snoopy. Oh, I can't do an online one with typist or PDF. So we could call up an image if we wanted to. I do have the Apple logo already in here, so we'll just duplicate it. So I should be able to say, give me the Apple logo again. And then that should display regardless of the format. So it's a big image, so it's actually coming in kind of massive there, and it's bleeding over onto a new screen. Okay, so let's try the final type that this should work with, which is a PDF. And the PDF renderings should look very similar to the typist specified renderings. Now this may take a little more time because there's a couple of packages and dependencies that need to be loaded. Are you crossing your fingers, Slowpoke? Better be crossing your fingers instead of just showing off your mighty pythons. There it is. Hey, it works. Now one of the concessions that I made for PDF and typist, one of the concessions I made for PDF and typist callouts is I kind of lost that left-hand darker border. I'm like, that's okay. It's not that important. There's not as much rounding on the callouts themselves, so they look more square. And then there's also some internal logic with the placement of the title relative to the image. So if you have a very wide image, and so Pink Panther is here not just because I like the Pink Panther, which I do, but because it's a very wide image and I wanted to play with tall images like Snoopy and wide images like the Pink Panther. And so try to get the title placement relative to that. So the only thing you can do right now to really kind of tweak with that is to tone the image height down a little bit. And so right now it's kind of massive. It's 4.8 size what that image actually is. So if we just toned it down to a more reasonable kind of image size, then you're going to see the title. You should have more space between the title and the image for the top one there for the Pink Panther. So that should only be a issue on the PDF renderings. The other renderings, the internal logic is such that there should be a little more space between the image and the title itself. So it's still not great. And again, that's partially because of this image. One of the things we could do is we could go in there and we could change that image. So if we wanted to find that image, and this is not a solution that I love because I don't like modifying things in order to make them work, but because you have to have a local version of the image anyway, it doesn't bother me quite as much because you're not just grabbing it from some place that's shared across everyone that uses these. This is actually something that you individually are going to have to save locally if you're interested. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to. So I was hoping I could maybe extend these boxes a little bit, but it's not going to let me. So you can see kind of some of the issue here with this image is it is cropped so tight. There is no boundary or bordery or padding that's on this image just itself. And so that's the main reason that we're seeing a little bleeding over on the PDF rendering of this. Okay. So those are some options. I didn't realize I had that in the package. I might have to take that out. We probably don't want that. But those are some options for customizing your callout. So you can use the Codeless Professor's icon package. It's called Custom Callout. It's a better name than what I have. Or what I have is this way of controlling not just placing not just an icon here in the upper left hand, but any image you want. It can be an icon, but any image you want will actually work up there as well. And then again, the appearance of those. The appearance I think looks quite similar in our HTML files, but for me, if you're using the Callout PNG package, the appearance is going to look a little different with the typist and the PDF specifications. These are looking, I think, a little bit different because the color is so saturated. So let me just let me see if I can get a lighter pink. And it's more consistent with a little more consistent with kind of what the what the native callouts look like. So that's kind of more the effect that you probably are going to go through if you're trying to get something that looks more similar to the native Quarto callouts. Okay, cool. So there's some callout customizations that you can do. Again, like everything we do, these aren't the only options. These are just kind of 2 extensions that are out there and available if people want to work with them. If you play with this and you want a feature included on it, let me know. I can go in there and probably maybe accommodate it. Again, I wanted to keep the user parameters kind of limited and have more decisions made just kind of automatically by the algorithm that's rendering this. But if somebody has a strong opinion or wish or desire to do something different, I'm open to it. Okay, thanks everybody. So next week, if you have any ideas or any requests on what you want to see, let me know. Otherwise, I'll pick something on my own. The danger of me picking something on my own is I might end up spending the weekend creating my own extension, which is what happened this weekend. All right, good night everybody.